The game. 4th and goal. And they're going to snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
In front of the letters, nods yes, the wind, the 1-2 pitch, swinging a ground ball left side, Castro's got it, spins, throws, he got him, a perfect game for Roy Halladay, 27 up and 20.
What is up, everybody? Trending for 4 quarters. We are live right here on DSM Media. Jam-packed show tonight, everybody, because we don't have basketball to worry about. The NBA Finals are over. Hockey's over. Baseball, nobody cares about. It's less than a week till Eagles training camp. So we get to finally start talking and focusing solely on the number 1 team in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, this is Trending for 4 quarters. On DSM Media, I am your host, Phil Stifel. I'm packed here with guys tonight. We got everybody. First off, I got to introduce Jimmy Smith. I was on his show a couple weeks ago. He's one of my favorite podcasters out there and content creators on the road to victory, Jimmy Smith. And then on my sides over here, we got Dylan and JD from Team DSM. Dylan is the host of Turf Talk and the Faithful Fanatics. We got JD, host of the Sneaker Savant and UFO. You know, we are packed. Guys, welcome. And first, Jimmy, thanks for coming on DSM Media for the first time.
Dude, it is a pleasure to be here. Great to meet the couple of guys over here, Dylan and JD. Pleasure talking to you guys for a couple minutes, but I can't wait to get into this, dude. DSM Media, you guys are doing big things here. So thanks for having me on, and let's ride, baby.
Yeah. And where I tagged them on YouTube clip, your YouTube page, but where can everybody find you and on the road to victory?
Well, you can find me at OTR2 Victory, as you see down there at the bottom. And you can also find me on the road to victory with Jimmy Smith on YouTube and all social media platforms. Just going out and spreading the good word, just like you guys are doing. You know, I love to see the brotherly love that has been built. With a time like the pandemic, everything that was going on, saw such great things come to rise here, dude. And I love what you guys are doing here. I'm truly excited to be here. So if anybody wants to follow me, please feel free. But give these guys a follow, too, because I just did so before the show and really enjoying what I see so far.
Hey, again, thank you very much. And JD, Dylan, thanks for joining me on Trending. Episode 2 of Trending here. Yeah, you're so excited. You're speechless.
Oh, no, I'm ready to talk. I'm just trying to
contain let's dive in. So this week's poll question that I set the show up, we're talking camp, Eagles camp. It's coming up less than a week. When we do this show next Wednesday, camp will already have started. Okay, so let's look at the most intriguing and the camp battles that we're most looking forward to. So I put four answers on the poll question. I put the running back depth chart. I put the wide receiver depth chart. I put left tackle, Andre Dillard versus Jordan Mailata. And I put cornerback 2 with a big question mark because there could be any. There's a lot of other camp battles that are going to go on. Jimmy, as the special guest, first time on DSM Media, which one of those camp battles in the poll question or one of the others that are out there are you most intrigued and looking forward to seeing how it unfolds in the next 4 to 6 weeks before the first game?
Man, all great choices there. The left tackle, obviously very important. Good thing we've got 2 very talented guys, it looks like. Andre Dillard put on that muscle. I know a lot of people have certain feelings about him, but hey, if he's a first-round talent, if he can live up to that, that's a great challenge for Mailata. And we all saw what we had in Mailata. So I think that would probably be pretty important. But I think on the defensive side of the ball, we all know where it is. Cornerback 2. Not so sure there's really a battle going on other than just a glaring hole at the outside position. I was begging for them to please not put Avante out there last year. So we get rid of Sidney, we get rid of Rasul, and we're left with Avante. We saw what happened. And look, we got Zach McPherson in the draft. I really like the kid. He can play inside, out, zone, man. He can do it all. But he's going to need a little time to develop. We have no idea what he is. I don't want to throw him into the fire. So, my God, I think that's the best battle there, because what do you have? You picked up Nate Meters, Josiah Scott, two guys that are both nickel cornerbacks. You've got nothing but nickel cornerbacks in this damn cornerback room. Your outside guys are what? Michael Jacquet, Kevon Seymour. I mean, come on, guys. Craig James, and he's more of your special teams guy. But yeah, he's ended up started last year on the outside. What are we doing here? I think we all know Eagles Twitter has been losing it. Steven Nelson here, guys. I think that's the smart move. JD, come on. Steven Nelson would provide something super special to this team. And he's not like an all-pro kind of guy, but he's a cornerback too. That is what he's played predominantly his career in Pittsburgh and Kansas City in his 6 years. So, Eagles, go sign Steven Nelson. I think that would make it a great battle.
Before JD hits, if Steven Nelson is not signed, which one of those fantastic names do you think starts week 1 at cornerback 2?
Okay,
I mean, we don't want to see Avonte Maddox, but it kind of feels like Avonte Maddox has to have the leg up at this point. I mean, he's going to be a train wreck there again for like the second or third straight year, but he's got to be the one that's got the leg up, right?
Yeah, and you said it there, though. And he's got the leg up because he, has the experience and he did it. But he also got burnt. The one thing that makes me feel confident is Jonathan Gannon's here. So if anyone can get the best out of him, I think that's him. Obviously, we've seen when he's done with defensive backs. That's his career. So I'm not saying he's going to make Avonte some Pro Bowler, but the fact remains this kid is an inside corner, and he's not even a starting inside corner yet. I mean, maybe he could grow. He's still got time, but he's your 4th, 5th guy that helps on special teams. He can help you get free safety, too. He's a defensive back. I think with certain matchups, you can line him up. But so now your question is, who's outside if it's not him? Zach McPherson's the most talented, but he's raw as hell when it comes to the NFL. So what? Michael Jacquet? Kevon Seymour? And honestly, I guess I'd have to go with Zach McPherson. I would literally take him over any of those other guys. And I don't want to ruin his career. I don't want to mess him up by doing that to him. But God, literally talking about this is making me sick to my stomach right now, Phil. We can't start the season like this. Like, we really can't.
Dylan, you got your barf bag ready for that one?
Like, seriously.
Dude.
So JD, what are your thoughts on what he said about cornerback 2? Do you have anybody else that you think, other than Avonte Maddox, that should be the starting second cornerback for the Eagles?
It's not somebody that should be, but I think somebody they might try them. And I'm very familiar with this person is Kayvon Wallace. They may put him there. And I think and the only reason I say that is because he's really not a safety. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I watched him for 3 or 4 years at Clemson, and he had good games. He had really good games at Clemson, but I also saw him get abused a lot of times at Clemson. And especially when we played against Alabama and like some of these top-notch guys, which that's everybody in the NFL now. Every receiver in Alabama is now on a team. So to know that that's what he's going to be up against, I don't think Kayvon Wallace will be the person, but I think he might end up like you said, it's a crapshoot. So it's just like it's going to be like spray and pray. You're just going to spray and hope that you hit something at some point, because at this point in the game, that's all you really got. You could stay with Maddox. I think Maddox is like the devil, so it's kind of like I'd much rather stay there, but I think Kayvon Wallace may get a shot at it, and if he messes around and play against the right team that has a really crappy receiver core, he might have a good game, and you might get stuck with him there and then get exposed later on in the season.
Dylan, anything to add to that?
Oh, man.
Oh, but hold on. So Jason's checking in. He's saying spray and pray. It's already going to be a hashtag, spray and pray. It's got to be the new hottest, hashtag there. Sorry, Dylan.
No, you're good. It's not a battle like Jimmy said earlier. It's just kind of whatever is the lesser of the 4 or 5 evils out there. The Eagles love to take guys, especially in the secondary, and try to fit them in a position they're not supposed to be at. We all know that Avonte Maddox is not an outside cornerback because they got away with it somehow, some way.
It's not an outside cornerback. Sorry.
No, you're good. Because they drafted Jalen Mills was a 7th round draft pick out of LSU, drafted as a safety. They put him on the outside. He was the best cornerback on a Super Bowl team. And that's saying something. So now they keep doing it. Avonte Maddox, I guess is going to win that battle. But then you look at the other names. Okay, well, what are you doing in the slot now? Like, there's no good answer. I'm going to throw this name out there to you because it's just a hunch. Michael Jacquet might be starting for this team, dude, because correct me if I'm wrong. Michael Jacquet, didn't he make a play against the Arizona Cardinals at the end of last year during that dumpster fire?
He balled out a couple times.
Right. I think that's what's going to happen. They need to make a move. You cannot go into this season with the cornerback 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 depth chart looking and being in the condition that it's in.
So George is bringing up a good point here, and he's been talking about this kind of a point all off season. We're assuming that this coaching staff, this brand new outside of our offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland, every coach on this team is pretty much new and their first time stepping up. So like our cornerback coach has never been a cornerback coach. Our defensive, coach has never been a defensive coordinator. So we got to hope that this new regime does things a little bit differently and doesn't make these same mistakes.
My only rebuttal to that real quick is yes, I'm assuming he's talking about putting Avonte Maddox on the outside and not playing him in his position. But what the hell else do you do? We just gave the names. What else?
Here's what you do. You got to hope that this coaching staff also spends a little bit more time developing players differently. We talk about it on the wide receiver end, and when we get into that, depth chart later on this show, all we hear about is Nick Sirianni and how he coaches up wide receivers and gets more out of them. We got to hope that this defensive team, Jonathan Gannon and all his assistants, might do something different with the cornerbacks, the linebackers, the safeties, the Kayvon Wallaces, maybe these guys. I've already read and seen, interviews of Avonte Maddox talking about how he's been working on his eyes. That was his biggest weakness. Reading the field, reading the cornerback, reading the other wide receivers' hips and stuff like that. So hopefully this new coaching staff is working on these weaknesses of these players. So that's the only thing I think, what I think George is talking about, but also the hope with a lot of these players.
Yeah, might I add that, he's 100% correct. I think a lot of people are assuming that, and that's why I brought up Jonathan Gannon earlier. You have to realize this is a whole new coaching staff, so you got to hope that they get the best out of these guys and actually utilize them correctly. And I think they're going to see exactly what we see. Avonte Maddox is not an outside corner. That's why he will not be out there. And I said Zach McPherson because it's Michael Jacquet or Kevon Seymour, if not. So it's oh my God. And I think McPherson's going to be pretty talented, and I think he'll be around for a while. I think if you would get someone like a Steven Nelson, that would allow McPherson to battle Maddox for the inside job and eventually beat him out in his time. You don't have to rush it. That's why I think it's a perfect move. But he's right. This new coaching staff is going to do a lot of different things. So let's have a little bit of hope.
Yeah, hope, faith. We got to wait till we see practices and stuff like that to really – I even to this moment, everybody's assuming that – the defensive style is going to be one way and the offensive style is going to be another. Till we see game film, even the vanilla preseason games that they are, we're not going to be able to really truly judge what this coaching staff is going to put on the field till we see them in action. So, JD, we knocked out cornerback. Is there a defensive or offensive battle that you're looking at here? Wide receiver, running back, offensive line, anything specific?
I think – I wrote some notes here. I'm gonna share them with you guys. I'm wanna be transparent. So one of my boys, big Eagles fan, texted me the other day and says, he's like, how funny would it be if Joe Flacco starts week 1? And
you put that evil on me.
One of my other secret camp battles right here.
Listen, I've looked at your page. I know what's in there, so I'm gonna take all your
cameras in this office here.
Listen, seriously. We set you up weeks. So when you sign with us, we put cameras in there. We know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So what I was saying is, he said, how funny would it be? And I chuckled a little bit, but I said, do you want mutiny? And I literally said that. So I was like, do you want mutiny of your fan base? Because Joe Flacco is past his best time. Like at this point in the game, Joe Flacco should have been brought here to be the backup. It's like watching a really bad movie, knowing you've seen the end, but yet and still they're gonna still play the movie for you again. I just don't see the guy that squats 600 pounds, that's throwing and having these great workouts with his new receivers is gonna be sitting week 1. You haven't named him the starter, which I think is BS, because you have a 75-year-old backup that's waiting around for what I'm calling him Rip Van Winkle. If he comes out with a Fitzpatrick beard looking like Rich Van Winkle, I'm taking it. I am just saying you cannot go into week 1 with there being any type of disparity at the quarterback position.
I know both Dylan and Jimmy want to get in on this, but I got to say, that's not why I wrote down quarterback 2 as a positional battle, because there's no way if Jalen Hurts is on this team, there's no way Jalen Hurts is being beat out.
You're
as
talking
the number 1 quarterback. So I have 2 other philosophies, and I want to get Jimmy and Dylan's thoughts on this. My philosophies on Joe Flacco is that, and George is bringing it up here, if Deshaun Watson's traded here, it probably means Jalen Hurts is going back to Houston, and Deshaun Watson's going to have to sit for 6-8 games, whatever his suspension would be. So that means then you have a Joe Flacco, Nick Mullins battle for quarterback 1. The other side of the equation that I'm thinking of is that when did Nick Mullins sign with the Eagles to be the quarterback 3 after the first OTAs? Did the Eagles see that Joe Flacco has nothing left in the tank to be that backup? Nick Mullins has a lot of starting, history in the NFL. Not very good, but, he's a serviceable backup. Did they bring Nick Mullins in to be the backup and they're going to cut Joe Flacco? Because they saw that Joe Flacco has nothing left. So that's where I think it's either, Mullins versus Flacco to take over quarterback 1 while Watson's, on a suspension, or they're going to be battling for quarterback 2 behind Jalen Hurts. Because there's no way, if Jalen Hurts is here, he's the starter week 1. Jimmy?
Yeah, Jalen Hurts, QB1 for me. I don't think that Joe Flacco has any, just like JD just said there. There's no competition.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the Mullen signing, what that meant, the way I read it was Jamie Newman. I liked him as a prospect. I still do. But they saw what they had. You have Jalen Hurts, who obviously last year we were praying he had some kind of preseason, didn't get any. But this year you don't want to throw him out there too much. It's preseason. You want him to, a couple drives or whatever. Joe Flacco, old as dirt. You don't want him getting killed in the preseason, and he doesn't want to get killed for the preseason, right?
Doesn't he have a cranky neck too?
Yeah, and he's trying to earn his check. You take him out in the preseason, he ain't getting that big check. So I think for me, I'm just saying, this is my opinion. I think Nick Mullins, you bring him in because he's a lot more accurate and he's been in the NFL for 5 years. So he has some experience. I think what that provides is for a preseason quarterback. I think that really helps your young wide receivers. Whereas Jamie Newman's trying to learn the game. He's got a lot going on. Whereas Mullins, that's pretty much what the offense was ran as, vanilla for him, because he's not a great quarterback. So he's coming here to play like he was going, and he was doing, things against us. And obviously we all know the interception from Singleton. We all love that. Look, I think that he's here to be a preseason quarterback because Hurts isn't going to be that guy. Flacco isn't going to be that guy. And it's going to help you see what you have, because I know we're going to talk about this, but that wide receiver battle behind Smith and Reagor is huge. So you want a quarterback that's serviceable and is going to show you what you actually have in these receivers, instead of being like, oh, he could have maybe caught that, but it was overthrown 10 yards, or he got sacked, or he made the wrong play call.
Actually, that's a really good point there. I really do like that end point there, getting sacked or overthrowing passes with Jamie Newman. I just think that they were so against Jamie Newman. He just must have been that god-awful in that first OTA. Dylan, anything to add? I didn't expect to spend this much time talking about Joe Flacco and Nick Mullins.
No. It's great. Jimmy made a great point about the preseason and, just having these young wide receivers have a serviceable quarterback to go out there and get snaps with, like in-game snaps. I wanted Joe Flacco as the backup 3-4 years ago. We got him about 3-4 years too late. I mean, that's all. There is no controversy. There is no competition. Okay. The Watson one's interesting, but George said regardless of his accusations. I don't think it's regardless of his accusations. If there's any truth to his accusations, I don't think he plays in an Eagles uniform. If those get cleared up, then yes, I think he can and will be an Eagle.
Yeah. Can I chime in real quick?
Accusations. I think Deshaun Watson would already be the quarterback here for the Eagles.
Yeah,
there's no doubt in my mind. They have the assets. They have the picks. He would be the quarterback 1 right now if there was no accusations on the table. Sorry, JD.
All right, so another Clemson guy, near and dear to my heart. I've been defending them since day one, kind of, and I'm gonna be honest. And I'm just gonna be honest because I haven't said this on my show yet. To be completely honest, the way that everything is just fizzled out, I just don't believe that the Eagles don't take their shot. Mm-hmm. This is no different than in basketball with the Sixers not getting James Harden. Like, you miss on this guy, if you really want him, you'll be kicking yourself in the face, because these accusations are only going to last about another 6 months at the most. Mm-hmm. They're going to figure out how to get it done. They're going to get in the courtroom and they'll figure it out. If you get this guy, think about what happens to Philly if they get Deshaun Watson. If Philly gets Deshaun Watson, you're back in the position with a Carson Wentz type player that we know has a chip on his shoulder and he wants to play with these guys. Like, I've seen the kid get flipped over by like 3 dudes, get kicked in the eyeball, still make a touchdown pass. Like, that's Philly. Now, I love Jalen Hurts. Don't get me wrong. I love Jalen Hurts. If I got to stick with somebody, I'm okay with sticking with Jalen Hurts. But if I got a chance to get Deshaun Watson, national championship Deshaun Watson, kicked in the eyeball and still make a touchdown pass Deshaun Watson, I'm taking that dude. And I'm telling you right now, I'm a Steelers fan to my core. But if y'all get Deshaun Watson, there will be a Deshaun Watson jersey up there, and I'll be watching the games.
We'll see how that plays out. I think it's another whole conversation, but I still think that's why Zach Ertz is on this team because they need Ertz as part of a trade. Like, I know George will say just cut the guy, whatever, but he's a trade asset to some level and some aspect. He is a trade asset. You might be holding on to him for that purpose, but we'll get into that later. So, Dylan, your turn to go first here. Do you want the wide receiver battle or do you want another battle that you want to talk about?
I'm going to go with the one that Jimmy passed up on earlier, the left tackle.
Okay, left tackle it is.
And I say that because this to me, and I know George is going to disagree because we talked about this on my show earlier. This to me is more than just on the field play in camp between Dillard and Mailata. This is a first-round draft pick that Howie Roseman invested in. This is a guy who missed the first year, his rookie year due to injury, and he kind of you might have found something with Jordan Mailata. I know it took a couple years for him to develop, but Brian Baldinger
he never played football ever.
Right. Yeah, Brian Baldinger loves him. He's what, 6'8", 6'9". Okay. Wait a sec. Time out. George agreed with me on every point I made on Turf Talk last Sunday. So don't come in here with that mess, George.
Hey, George, it's like 2 a.m. where George is. He's staying awake across the pond to watch this show. So much love to George and everybody.
You, George.
Right now. If you got questions, comments, drop them in the comments section. We'll cut the conversation short to address your questions and comments. And George says that was last week, not this week. So. George, I love George. George is one of my favorites. He's trying to make it across the pond for our DSM tailgate, extravaganza. So we'll look forward to that. Back to left tackle though, Dylan.
So my point is, I think Mailata has to. While I believe Mailata should be the left tackle. I mean, depending again, I'm not there seeing Dillard versus Mailata every day in camp. But from what I saw last year, I would start Jordan Mailata. However, I think that he has to greatly outplay Andre Dillard throughout camp and in the preseason for Howie and management not to stick their nose in this, as we know they like to do in day-to-day operations, and force feed the first-round draft pick that he invested in down our throats, even if he's not the right guy. The counterpart is this coaching staff, besides the offensive line coach, Andre Dillard isn't their guy. They weren't here when he was selected. So I think it kind of tells you, too, how much role, how he's going to play in all this.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. The Howie aspect of the Dillard-Mailata, battle, it's also going to play a factor in some other battles that we're going to talk about here shortly. Jimmy, what do you think? Is it going to be Mailata? Is it going to be Andre Dillard? Is he got some? Is Dylan onto something with the Howie aspect of it?
I think it's a win-win for once in our lives as Eagles fans, because Howie drafted one in the first round, so he doesn't want to be wrong there. But then he's got a diamond in the rough on the other spot, so he's like, "Hey, whatever, man, pick one, the best one." So we're in a situation just like we were going into the draft, best player available. So may the best man win. Now we know that last year Dillard needed to put on that muscle. Well, he did, ended up hurting his shoulder. Well, he did it again. He said he's been in the training. Everything I've heard, he's been in there training, watching tape, doing everything he can to get better. That's awesome. But I agree with Dylan right now. From what I saw from Mailata coming in against the Steelers, against the Ravens, and doing what he did, are you kidding me? And then to be benched for JP when he came. Don't even get me started. But Mailata's earned it. Dillard's got to beat him. But you've got another great trade asset there. So I'll wait till you get into some other things. But we've got some other trade assets there. So I love what you've been talking about there. But, man, what a great position to be in with the left tackles.
Yeah. I just think that there's so many different aspects. And we've had on previous shows I've done, we've had former Eagle Jeremy Bridges, former Eagle Trey Thomas, and all these other guys, offensive line gurus that I've interviewed. And they all said the thing that scares me about Andre Dillard was that when Dillard moved from left tackle to right tackle to guard, all the different spots, and how quickly he couldn't – you can't instantly adjust, but there's got to be some adjustment if you're a first-round talent. Jordan Mailata bounced around a little bit last year. With Jason Peters around, he moved to right tackle. He didn't do amazing, but he showed some ability to be flexible.
Better than
so
Dillard.
2 things on that. One, that if Howie Roseman has his fingerprint in here, they can move Jordan Mailata around. But on the flip side of the equation, hearing other offensive linemen, some Pro Bowl offensive linemen say that if Andre Dillard can't make a quick shift over to right tackle for a few plays and not make some form of adjustment, that kind of says something about his makeup. And that's what I worry about, Andre Dillard's makeup. JD? Oh, sorry, Jimmy.
I was just going to say real quick to that. And the problem for him is he sucks at moving around, like you just said. You've got Jack Driscoll and Nate Erbig, who I love as the future there. And you obviously have Landon Dickerson, too, who could play guard and center and will be the future, too. So you've got 2 guys. They're already holding it down. They are multiple talented guys. And Driscoll played guard, tackle, and in the offseason last year, trained at center. So sorry, Dylan. You'll be the odd man out if you don't win this job.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, JD?
Nah, I don't care about the big guys.
I love the trenches. I love the offensive line, and I love the defensive line. I don't know. I just love trench warfare kind of to an extent. And you bring up the rest of the offensive line there, Jimmy. You got Nate Herbig, you got Jack Driscoll, you got the Dickerson versus Sayamalu. If Dickerson's healthy, he could win the left guard position hypothetically over Sayamalu. If you think about, say Mailata is the starter, just for argument's sake. You got your 5 starters: Mailata, Sayamalu, Kelsey, Brooks, and Lane. Then you got Dillard, Opeda, Herbig, Pryor, Driscoll, Dickerson. That's 10 guys right there already on the offensive line. Plus you got guys in that third level. I mean, there's a lot of tough decisions that are going to be coming. Everyone says Opeda, everybody liked him, and he was a Stoutland, fan, or Stoutland was a fan of him. They were grooming him to be a center. Nate Herbig, they've been grooming to be a center.
Matt,
there's going to be a lot of tough decisions on that offensive line.
Matt Pryor is lucky I'm not the GM of the Philadelphia Eagles.
I know.
There
are people in the organization that like Matt Pryor.
He would not be on that roster past week 3 last year.
He's versatile, and he provides a swing tackle, right, Dylan? But I think, he's got to go. Jack Driscoll now provides that, or the loser of the Dillard Mailata.
Yeah. I mean, what do you carry? 8, 9 offensive linemen? I've named 10 offensive linemen, and there's still more on the depth chart. So there's going to be some tough calls. Hopefully there's a trade or 2 being made. One these guys go.
One last point on the offensive line before we move on is, look, last year was a travesty of offensive line play. 10 different offensive line comp duos in 11 weeks or whatever it was, and they were bad. But to your guys' points with the Jack Driscolls of the world and the Nate Herbigs of the world and the Jordan Mailatas now of the world and everything, they got a full year of experience now, and now they turn from being your starters to your backups, where now you have a lot of depth, where a year ago going into the season, offensive line wasn't viewed as a deep position if my memory serves me correctly, because we're like, oh, great, we got Matt Pryor, we got Nate Herbig, like, who cares? Now you kind of seen them for a year.
That's actually my biggest concern. My biggest concern on the offensive line isn't the battles between Mailata and Dillard and Driscoll and all these other guys. It's Brooks and it's Lane Johnson and it's Kelsey. These guys are getting up there in age. We had 13, 15, 27 different offensive line configurations last year.
We set the record.
I'm not even 13,
sure. 13, the NFL record.
A lot of offensive line configurations last year. I can't guarantee, and nobody can guarantee that's not going to be the same case this year, because Brooks has had how many season-ending injuries? Lane Johnson kind of started to feel like Jason Peters last year a little bit, and Kelsey almost retired for like the 14th season in a row. So I don't know. I think that scares me more than these young guys, because if we want to contend, and I know there's some positive people out there that think, there's also some not so positive people that this is a rebuild season like it is, so don't worry about the record. But for those positive people that think we can contend for our division this year, you're going to need a 100% Brandon Brooks and a 100% Lane Johnson to even have a remote chance. And they're going to have to play 15 to 17 games to have a remote chance.
For me, I think they definitely do. You got to have that. And that's like, someone was like, oh, yeah, like saying something to me. And I was like, look, I'm not trying to be Booger McFarland, but you literally have to stay healthy to win games. And it obviously is a problem for us. That's all we know the last few years. So we looked at that.
Staying healthy on the offensive line also leads to continuity and trust and playing with one. And the one thing I brought up earlier, I love it. Like Brandon Brooks and Lane Johnson are boys. Like I love it. Like one of my friends, they were out at a bar together in Philly like last weekend or whatever. And like they're boys. Kelsey, he's aging, but like you don't really worry about Jason Kelsey too much right now. So like as long as they can stay healthy, and then like Jalen Hurts doesn't have to worry about who's over here, who's watching my blind side, who whatever. So I think just staying healthy just to have that continuity and trust in the offensive line will be humongous.
Real quick,
all I was going to say
that's a great segue. Jalen Hurts and trust.
Well, let me finish this real quick. All I was going to say before Dylan said that was this backup starting line, like all of our backups, if they were the starters, they could be the Giants' offensive starting line. So I mean, they're actually pretty good, and
I don't know if
it
that's
concerns
a good thing or
me.
a bad thing to say there.
I'm saying we're good enough to beat out their starters, our backups.
Okay.
So I think Driscoll, Erbig, Dickerson, they all provide you the backup wherever you need to go. Left side, right side, at guard or tackle and center. So those three right there, I love it. And then if you keep a couple more for depth pieces, I'm all about it. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but I feel a little more comfortable because Dylan had said we got to see what we have in depth, and it makes me a little comfortable toward the future, actually.
Well, so again, anybody just tuning in, again, this is Trending for Four Quarters right here on DSM Media. I am Phil Stiefel. We got Jimmy Smith. We got JD. We got Dylan. We're less than a week from Eagles camp starting, and we're breaking down the camp battles. And Dylan segued into what is my most exciting camp situation going on, and that's the wide receivers. You know, Dylan says, you know, Jalen Hurts and trust. Well, he's going to have to develop some trust with a lot of really young, inexperienced, or underperforming wide receivers. I just wrote down the 7 top wide receivers on our team, and there's about 10 or 11 that are going to be reporting to camp. But obviously, we got Devontae Smith, our number 1 overall pick. You got Jalen Reagor, our number 1 pick last year. You got the 4-game flash, Travis Fulgham. You got Quez Watkins. You got Jonathan Hightower. You got 20 catches for 42 yards, Greg Ward. And you got Arcega-Whiteside. That's the top 7, okay? But which one of my jokes are you laughing at? Because, you know, I love them all. You know?
I'm just laughing that J-Jaw's still somehow on the roster. But
that's actually the same thing with the whole conversation we have with Dillard and Howie Roseman not wanting to give up on picks too soon.
Exactly.
Arcega-Whiteside actually, I think, has a leg up to make this team this year over a tough decision over one of these other guys, whether it's Quez Watkins, whether it's Travis Fulgham, Greg Ward. Maybe he gets traded somewhere. I don't know. Jimmy, what are we doing with this wide receiver depth chart here, Jimmy?
Dude, what's happening right now? Dylan's freaking out.
Oh, no, I'm looking at Jordan. Don't sleep on J-Jaw. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Me and
So
George are both on the J-Jaw bandwagon.
But I was wondering if Dylan was okay. So Dylan, look, I'll be real with you.
Is this sponsored by CBD oil or something like?
Yeah.
Hold on. I got
umbrella company.
Here's my CBD package right here, ready to go.
Oh, he high, bro.
All right, look, I think Arcega-Whiteside, that's a great story and all. And I think that, you know, if anyone can get, just like we said with Gannon in the defensive back, you look at the offense, Sirianni, Shane Steichen, these guys have all worked with quarterbacks, receivers, so they're going to be a help these guys, sure. Arcega-Whiteside, he was drafted in the second round because he had some talent in the red zone. I think they will get the most out of him, but I don't know if that's enough to beat out Travis Fulgham. That's who he's going to be competing with. And I think the great thing about these receivers, we talk about being interchangeable. You know, Devontae Smith, Jalen Reagor, they can play the X, Y, Z, whatever you want to do. Dude, I'm telling you, it's actually a nice room if the couple guys pan out. Quez Watkins needs to be that speedy guy that can play in the slot or outside at times, and I think he'd be perfect. Same with Greg Ward. I laughed at what you were joking about there, you know, but he's Mr. Dependable. But he's got to be your 4th, 5th wide receiver. So you're really wondering who is, and is it Fulgham? Is he a guy that can play X, and then you've got Devontae in the slot, and you've got Reagor at Z? And then maybe you put Ward at the slot, and then you have Devontae at X, Reagor to Z. You know, you interchange these guys. I love that. So you got to look at the guys that are versatile. Greg Ward's not one of those guys. And as much as I love him, there's some talented guys, like you said, Arcega-Whiteside, pushing him. And Hightower needs to learn how to track the ball. Quez Watkins, he's speedy as hell, but he's got to work on some things. But a lot of young talent, man, going to be intriguing.
Hey, I just want to say to Matt, We're not saying he should be on the roster.
Yeah,
I'm
not
saying he's probably going to make the roster because of different circumstances that are around it. Not saying he should, but he might. JD, I know you're. JD,
I think he's going to
too.
too.
Smoke coming out of JD's ears,
dude. If I'm a Steelers fan, so if we do anything great, it's receivers. Like we can develop receivers, and what I've seen so far in my small tenure of being the Eagles, what is it?
Being around the area.
Yeah, I just have compassion for the Eagles right now.
Okay.
What I've seen is they don't have a real direction. So they went out and got Rager, all right, and everybody wanted to stone that man. And so they bring Rager in, they go get Jalen Hurts in that same draft. So we're all thinking, well, maybe there's a reason. Maybe there's a reason you go get Jalen Rager. Maybe he won't be there. Well, I watched him at TCU. I did not. Okay, well, how about this? For this guy.
I just interrupted you there.
I was gonna wait, but I'm gonna still say it. Fulgham was probably your second best receiver last year. I'm just being honest with the amount of catches. Like there was games where nobody caught anything.
He had 4 games.
Yeah.
And as soon as the league figured him out, because mind you, Travis Fulgham in 2019 was on like 17 different practice squads because he could not even hold down a spot on a practice squad. And in 2020, before he came up and started playing for the Eagles, he was bouncing around from practice squads. Travis Fulgham is just one of those guys, most likely in my opinion, that he's not I don't want to use the word flash in a pan, but he's a guy that had his 5 minutes of fame. He's not an NFL wide receiver on a good team that's getting regular. He's a 5th wide receiver, 6th wide receiver at best on any team. So if you've got a guy named Travis Fulgham, that's your 5th or 6th best wide receiver on your team, but you got J-Jaw, who you invested a 2nd round pick in just 2 years ago, you're going to keep the 2nd round talent and hope your new coaching staff that is known for developing wide receivers can develop that guy. Because mind you, you don't have a guy of the body size of Arcega-Whiteside.
Wait, J-Jaw is trash.
Wait, but what if they fall on a diamond in the rough with Travis Fulgham like they did?
They might have. They might. So then you got to keep Fulgham and Arcega-Whiteside, and that means you're cutting Ward and Watkins. I don't know.
Or J-Jaw. Like, what's the?
Keep going, JD, because I can't wait.
Keep going. Everybody wants to get in on this one.
What is the benefit of J-Jaw?
Nothing.
His size and his strong
size. Screw the size, because what I'm telling you
was one thing. I said the one thing.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, Phil. Then don't say the one thing.
You want me to say 2 things then?
No, don't say the one thing, because if that's the only thing you got to say, that's not
got strong hands.
I don't care about that either. So check this out.
The 50-50 ball for that first down when you got a 3rd and 7 and you need a guy to run it out and get a tough contested catch. J-Jaw's your best bet
this year. Honestly, the best bet you got.
I'm hoping he can.
The best bet you guys got this year is you put Jalen Rager on one side and Devontae Smith on the other side, and you just tell him to run straight out and have him throw his best ball. Like, listen, that's your best bet because you spent money on speed. Like, there was no other reason to go get Rager and then the next draft go get Devontae Smith, because those are what those guys are for, speed. And the route tree on Devontae Smith is amazing. If you watch his route tree, it's stupid. It's crazy. Just don't know why you would spend time on J-Jaw, and Fulgham actually played well last year when y'all let him play. Just don't know why. Practice squad or not.
Fulgham got hurt, and that's when he started falling off, and that's not the whole reason. Phil had mentioned, defenses had some tape on him. They started figuring it out a little, and you saw he didn't make it on other practice squads, but I think he was getting better. I really do think he was improving. So he's actually going to have to compete with J-Jaw. It's not just going to be a given, but it's kind of concerning.
But then the thing to also go on, because I think someone commented about it. I think Jason did. He's about Howie throwing people down our throats. Once Alshon came back, he threw him in his money right back in our faces. Is it my turn to talk about J-Jaw?
Please do. Please do, Dylan. Train him up real quick.
Say something positive about J-Jaw.
And I have there is no positive, because I bought into it in his rookie preseason. I was like, oh, wow, this is Alshon's replacement, right? That's why they brought him here. He's a bum. Listen, and I can tell me and George are going to have a lot of fun this year together, because, listen, I fully understand your 2 points about how he's going to make the roster, because I think he's going to. But when George makes a comment first, don't sleep on J-Jaw. And then this comment is It's about attitude. Sirianni loves what J-Jaw brings. Fulgham has an attitude issue. How do you know that? You know that Travis Fulgham has an attitude issue? What?
I don't know.
Yeah,
We
I
have
didn't
not
do
got
that
a training
comment in there.
camp yet. So,
I missed that one.
You
Yeah.
don't know. And
We
how do
haven't
you
got
know
to
that
training camp
Sirianni loves J-Jaw and his attitude? My point is, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside can no longer be a Philadelphia Eagle. It's been what? This is going to be is this year 3 or 4?
For who? Arcega-Whiteside, it'll be his 3rd year.
Okay. Too many. I'm over it. Like, I get it. You took him over DK. You got to keep throwing him in our faces.
Let me throw this out there. Last year, I was saying the same thing about Jordan Mailata. 2 years too many. Year 3, Jordan Mailata.
Yeah, I mean, receivers, you have to give sometimes a few years. And I think I want to see what he has. I'm going to give him training camp, and he's going to have to compete with Fulgham because I love what someone said there. Alshon Jeffrey came back. Same thing that happened to Mailata with JP coming back. So it was hard to gauge kind of what was going on. There were ups, there were downs, but this whole damn team was up and down. We were talking about an MVP caliber guy that's now traded. So what the it is what it is. This team is, I think, got some young talent, but it's a lot of questions. And we could be as excited as we want, but there could be some bumpy roads ahead because we're talking about Fulgham and Arcega-Whiteside as your big possession receiver. But here's the great part. We have Devontae Smith now. So Travis Fulgham doesn't have to come in and be that guy that gets every snap at X. So I think that's the one really great thing.
That's actually a huge point because I think having Devontae Smith, and I think people gave Jalen Reagor the short stick way too quickly last year. He was injured. It was a bad team, whatever.
We'll find out this
year. Jalen Reagor is not anywhere in the class of Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith is going to come out of this wide receiver class as the best wide receiver out of this class of wide receivers in this draft class. I know people love, some of these other guys that were drafted, Jalen Waddle and whatnot. Devontae Smith, when we were at 6, I knew the Eagles won draft defense. I wanted Devontae Smith at 6. So I love Devontae Smith's game. I do.
I want to hold it.
JD's laughing at that.
Go check out. Go check out.
Clemson wide receiver that he thinks is better.
No, I don't. Yeah. I don't think that we had a better receiver this draft. The best receiver that came out of this draft didn't. He's not coming out. He's gonna play this year. But honestly, to be completely honest with you, and I'm not even saying this to be funny, but your best receiver is your tight end. So, I mean, let's just be like. I mean, if Goddard plays well, then we're not even having this conversation about Fulgham or Arcega-Whiteside or, the Dick Sporting Good guy that checked you out last week. Like nobody's going to care if Goddard plays good and then Reagor plays good and then you have Devontae Smith who has a great rookie season. These other dudes not going to matter because you still got Miles Sanders to catch out the back. Well, I'm saying it right? Miles Sanders?
Miles, yeah.
Miles. I'm sorry. Miles be coming out the backfield.
He doesn't even know who our starting running back is.
Well, I was going to say Boston Scott because he caught that amazing touchdown.
We're going to get to the Boston Scott shortly because I'm going to stir up some trouble there. All right, so guys.
I just want to throw that out because we're having a conversation about the receivers and the receiving core, but the tight end should be a part of that receiving core because they do catch a lot of balls. So I don't know if that transitions to anybody, but I think.
Well, I want to say before we transition.
That's a whole nother conversation.
The deep running back room. We're going to get into that deep running back room in a minute. Jimmy, then Dylan, then JD. What's the one guy out of the 7 I named that will not be on the roster week 1? Jimmy first.
Wait, which ones did you mention?
Osborne
or Michael Walker?
Fulgham, Watkins,
all the other guys,
and J-Jaw.
All right. I would
which one will not be on the team?
Probably either Greg Ward or I think Ward provides some special teams help. So unless Arcega-Whiteside figures it out, it'll probably be him.
Dylan?
Not on the team?
Not on the team week 1. Time's up. JD? Who's not on the team?
Who's not on the team? Arcega-Whiteside more than likely.
Yeah. Dylan, what was your answer? Sorry.
J-Jaw.
Yeah. Now, see, I'm going to go with either Ward or Fulgham because I really believe one of those two guys is going to get traded. There's a lot of teams that need wide receiver help. Travis Fulgham, someone's going to buy into his 4-game stretch. And Greg Ward, is Mr. Reliable. I make fun of him because he can't get any separation. I call him 20 catches for 42 yards, Greg Ward, but he catches everything that's thrown his way. So there's going to be a team that needs a slot guy, maybe New England. Somebody that's going to need a small, crafty guy that can get open for 2-yard catches across the middle. So Greg Ward might provide that. So I think it's either going to be Ward or Fulgham. And surprisingly, I think Hightower would be next on that list ahead of J-Jaw too, because he was a 5th or 6th round pick. And again, you're more likely to cut a 6th round pick than a second-round pick.
What about Quez? Are you buying into the Quez Watkins?
I don't know. I think Watkins. I mean, I don't know. I think Watkins just showed me a little bit more. Hightower just. I don't know. Hightower's just a fast guy. He's like the dude from that Shane Falco was throwing to in the replacements. Okay, what was that wide receiver's name? They had to put the stickum, looked like an elephant, whatever, in his hands. That's what Jonathan Hightower is. He can run by everybody, but he can't catch the ball. So
can't track the damn thing. Yeah,
exactly. All right, let's transition. We're 45 minutes in here. I don't want to go too far over an hour for all our listeners. The running back room, super, super scary deep. Okay, you got Miles Sanders, obviously our running back one. I don't think there's a question there. Yeah. Drafted Kenny G, Kennethan Gainwell. They got Kerryon Johnson, Jordan Howard. You got Jason Huntley. You got Adrian Killins. You got Holyfield's son still back there. And, of course, name that was mentioned by JD, Boston Scott, who I was not a fan of Boston Scott going into last year. Don't think he's as good as everybody thinks he is. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys. Killins, he's a practice squatter. Don't have to worry about him. Holyfield, practice squatter. Traded a draft pick for Huntley. Barely saw the field last year. Jordan Howard's 47 years old, it feels like. Is there an odd man out that we don't see coming, Jimmy?
I think a lot of people don't see coming, but you just mentioned him. And most people do feel that he is 47 just because he's had so many injuries and things. But I think he's 26. Jordan Howard.
Really young, Jordan Howard.
Yeah, but he's got to compete with a 23-year-old that we just signed and then he restructured. Doesn't even cost us a mil on the cap. $920,000 is what it is once he restructured. I think Kerryon Johnson is a stud, so he's going to actually surprise some people, and Jordan Howard's going to find himself on the way out because Boston Scott provides at least some special teams depth, and you have Kenneth Gainwell, who is your pass-catching back. He can do it all. He can pass protect. He can run the ball. So you might even see some split-back sets where you've got Kenny G and you've got Miles on the field at the same time. So these guys, that trio right there of Miles, Kenny Gainwell, and Kerryon Johnson, I think is going to be awesome. And then if you have Boston Scott there as your depth guy, I'd be okay with that.
Dylan?
Jimmy just gave my 3. Those would be the 3 to 4 that I would keep on the roster. Boston Scott would fall to 4. Him and Kenny Gainwell can be compared in size and speed and all that, but Kenny G's the new toy, and he's faster than Boston Scott. And the rumor with Sirianni, how he can get the ball, he utilizes the running backs and gets the ball in their hands, and they can play make. Kenny Gainwell, it screams Kenny Gainwell, right? But if Kerryon Johnson can come in here and kind of reinvent himself in Philadelphia, I love that pickup. I didn't even know he cost them under $1 million on the books, but 2 to 3 years ago, that dude was a stud in Detroit, got an injury, never found his way back into that starting role, and now he comes here, and I don't know, I really like a 1-2 punch of Miles Sanders and Kerryon Johnson, and then
it's a perfect role for him, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. JD, your thoughts on this running back room? Is there a Clemson guy mixed in there?
No, man, I watch all college football. I don't just watch Clemson. I have a college football show, dude. That's what I do. So to be completely honest, you guys named all the major ones. I think Kerryon Johnson was a big pickup for you guys. I don't think that should be taken lightly whatsoever because it does add depth. And if somebody gets banged up, if they're running the ball like they should and keeping the quarterback upright, then there's going to be some guys that are going to get banged up through the year. And also, you got to think about your guys' running back room is a little bigger because who your quarterback actually is. Like your running back room gets a lot bigger. A lot of run pass options, especially when, you got a guy that can squat 600 pounds at playing quarterback. That makes a big difference. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of short passes, getting the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands. And those are going to be passes to like your tight end or your running back. So I'm going to assume that Hines is going to have a really good year, like a really, really good year, especially to bounce back because he was hurt. Well, Niles was hurt last season. Is that sure? Am I getting that right?
He missed a few games, not a lot of games,
not major, but he was banged up. That's why Boston Scott. That's why Boston Scott got a little bit more time. Yeah. So
look,
missed week 1. Man.
I'm going to piss you all off and say Boston Scott ain't nothing. And just like
I'm with you, I'm not a big Boston Scott.
He's not.
Everybody hyped up Boston Scott because he was in 2019 when Carson Wentz had to lead a practice squad team to the playoffs. Boston Scott had a good touchdown catch. He had some big runs against the Giants late in the season. But he's a practice squatter. There's literally no investment from the Eagles in Boston Scott. They haven't wasted a draft pick on him. Nothing. Just he's cheap. That's a positive. He's not as fast as Darren Sproles. He's not as good a pass catcher as Darren Sproles. And everybody wanted to make that comparison. So to me, he's 5th on the depth chart, in my opinion. Sorry, Jimmy, you wanted to say something. What was that?
You nailed it right there. And it reminded me of something I wanted to say when you were mentioning Greg Ward. The reason I think Greg Ward and Boston Scott are both on this team is actually due to the fact that they both signed their tenders. And what that means is they both cost you $850,000. I think Alex Singleton was the only one that cost you like $920 when he signed his tender. But those are guys that you keep for cheap as hell. And then next year you can decide what you want to do, restrict them or unrestrict. So I think right there, Boston Scott, that's the only reason he has that advantage is because of him signing that low deal and having, but I'm with you, Phil. I don't think he's anything. Some people overrate this guy, and I saw Dylan shaking his head. It's not saying he's the 4th running back because he's better, but he's better than Huntley, Killins, and I don't think Jordan Howard provides you that special teams help, and that's kind of why.
Well, that's why I'm looking at Jason Huntley. They traded a draft pick for him. Okay, he barely saw the field last year. What's that?
The last regime.
Yeah, the last regime, but Howie was still the one that did it. And you look at it. What's his name? The linebacker, defensive end. Jannard Avery, we traded a draft pick for him, and Howie just would not get rid of him, even though he couldn't see the field. So again, Howie might not want to be able to admit that draft pick that they traded, even though it was a later draft pick, was not a waste. So they're going to want to keep Huntley around. They kept him around all of last season, and he saw 6 snaps the entire year.
Why?
I still see it being Miles Sanders 1, Kerryon Johnson, if healthy. I know a couple people said has health issues. He's going to be your number 2 running back. Kenny G is your number 3. And I think they go with Jason Huntley as their 4th running back. Maybe Boston Scott can get on the practice squad. I don't think. I think some team will take a shot at him. But again, I think Howie's going to be doing a lot of wheeling and dealing in the preseason. And I think Boston Scott might be one of those guys that gets dealt out of here for a late conditional pick or something like that. Because honestly, I don't see the positive of having him on his team outside of the financial issue. Outside of the financial issue, I see zero reason to have Boston Scott on this team.
I agree.
Yeah, JD.
I see no lies
on the running backs.
I see no lies.
I wouldn't be surprised by that at all.
Yeah. Hey, and of course, Adrian Killins is the greatest running back since sliced bread, right?
Negative 13 yards, man.
I had to throw a little dig on that. I have nothing against Killians or Killins, whatever his name is. There's just a certain person I know that loves Killins. So whenever I have a chance to dig at Killins, I'll throw a dig at Killins.
Fair deal.
All right, so there's one more matchup. We kind of touched on it a hint with Kayvon Wallace. There's one other matchup I want to bring up, and that's safety. I know George brought it up on my thread this week that, Rodney McLeod claims he's going to be ready. There's a chance he's going to be on the PUP list. So who starts opposite Rodney McLeod or opposite Anthony Harris if McLeod's not there? And then also, even if McLeod's there, coming back from a knee injury like he did, he's not going to be able to play 100% of the snaps like he used to right off the bat. So you got Mike Epps, Marcus Epps, whatever you want to call him.
Mike Epps.
I don't want to say Mike Epps. It's just I'm awkward with names.
That's awesome.
And it all mixes together. You got Kayvon Wallace and you got Epps. Who's going to be that first guy off the bench or the guy that fills in for McLeod if he's not ready to go week 1? Jimmy, the last matchup. You get to start the last matchup out.
Oh, man. Well, I think Rodney McLeod, he needs to be healthy just like every position. Everyone keeps reminding us. And yes, indeed, we want everyone to be healthy. So if Rodney McLeod is healthy, that's free safety, right? Strong safety, Ant Harris. What a great signing under $2 million cap hit. Love it. So great pick up there. He starts a strong safety. But if he's not there, now you question, what do you do? I love what you said there about Marcus Epps, bringing him up. Mike Epps, who is he? But, dude, he surprised us last year. He actually had a couple good plays. I don't want him starting, but if you have to, the battle becomes, do you have Marcus Epps at free safety and Ant Harris at strong safety, or do you have Ant Harris, who I love the fact that he can play both safety positions. Do you have him at free safety and then Kayvon Wallace at strong safety? Now, Kayvon Wallace, as mentioned earlier by JD, has struggled in coverage. I don't want to see him much as a corner. He's going to be more of your big nickel, I think, used in certain situations, a strong safety that can cover certain tight ends, running backs, but I don't like him anywhere near a free safety. He should not be dropping in much of any kind of zone coverage, anything like that. He definitely has his issues, but maybe have him blitzing, doing some other things, maybe a hybrid role for him, but he could definitely see some time. So for me, it's I would actually have Kayvon Wallace losing out to maybe Marcus Epps unless he turns his game up. So it's going to be a great battle. I love that you brought that up.
Dylan,
Yeah, I think it's going to be what Jimmy said. I think if Rodney McLeod is not healthy to start the season, it's going to be Ant Harris alongside of Marcus Epps. I would probably start Kayvon Wallace. I'm just tired of the placeholders and these names that I've been seeing thrown in my face the last couple of years that just, they make a play, but they're just not good. Like Marcus Epps is just not a starting safety in this league. Kayvon Wallace isn't ready to be that yet either, but I'd rather see the young kid who can hit hard, play strong safety, maybe make a few plays, and next to Ant Harris, than just going with Marcus Epps, who's like, he's been an Eagle. He's been an Eagle. He probably knows the defense better, but it's just going to be the same old puke thrown out in my face.
So, Jay, you already talked about Kayvon Wallace. I got the answer to this whole safety situation if McLeod's not ready to go.
But I was going to throw this out
Stevie
there.
Nelson to be your second cornerback, and then Avonte Maddox could play safety, right? Because he's played safety. He's a hybrid safety slot guy. That would be my answer. Get Steven Nelson or somebody else to play cornerback too, and then put Maddox where he thrives in that hybrid role.
There has to be a movement. I'm just throwing that out there. There has to be a movement at cornerback too.
Oh, yeah. That's why I picked that position, so I could stress that. But Avonte Maddox is a nickel corner and a free safety. He is not an outside corner. So
I needed to stretch for this because I wanted to make sure I let everyone know what's about to happen. I stretched really good. I want to pull a hammy saying this. It's not that I don't like Kayvon Wallace. So let me just throw that out there. It's not that I don't like him. And I think he is a beast. And I don't know if you guys can go back to the national championship game where he basically rushes Tua and makes Tua throw an interception for a pick six. He is good in those positions where he can play the nickel. He's strong as crap for whatever reason. He's not a very big guy, but he's super strong. He's super athletic. Honestly, I would start him. I think I would start Kayvon, and not because he's a Clemson guy, but because he's young. We don't know what he's gained. This is the first year they've had a training camp, so that also helps. We don't know what they added into his pack, and you have to look at that. Like a lot of these guys that we're talking about, they didn't have any of a training camp, and a lot of them are young. Appreciate that. And it's crazy. Like watching these guys from college come into the pros, you kind of like people like, oh, we don't know him, we're gonna throw him away. Well, he was a beast in college, and he played at a Power 5 school, so we watched him. So I don't know. He's got a good head on his shoulders. I think that he could come in and help the team. And what's the least you do? You bench him if he plays, man. Like he's young. Like what's
right? Like who? Oh man, we like Kayvon Wallace effed up, but we could have Marcus Epps. Like,
yeah. I think one good thing about Kayvon is even if you don't start him, he's still going to get his reps, especially if Rodney's hurt. Because I could see him as a hybrid kind of linebacker. We talk about big nickel, certain matchups, just using that strength, his quickness, blitzing him, getting him attacking people. So he's definitely going to find the field, and I hope he just improves on that game. So I'm glad JD had that.
Phil, will you throw this comment up about Brian Dawkins? There's a lot of different things that make him similar to Brian Dawkins, not just because he plays with Philly, but because he played for the Clemson Tigers as well. So throwing that out there,
guys. Let's just hope that Rodney McLeod's healthy at this point.
Let's play that.
Dylan nailed it.
All right, we got two more quick topics before we wrap this shebang up here tonight. One other comment that was written in on my poll, and I just want to give the follower the shout out and the chance. They think that Davion Taylor is going to compete for a major role, not necessarily a starting role right out of the gate, but, invested a third-round pick in Davion Taylor. Our linebackers were weak last year. We made some slight improvements, signed Eric Wilson. You got TJ Edwards. You got Singleton. Does Davion Taylor, guys, have any shot at cracking the rotation, to say the least, or stealing a starting job from, say, a TJ Edwards or something like that?
I don't think so. And just real quick, I want to throw out with how bad cornerback 2 is and the lack of depth up the middle on the defensive line, it is astonishing how under the radar this linebacker group is flying right now in this offseason because they were atrocious last year. And just picking up Eric Wilson doesn't really solve that problem. It's a decent pickup, but it doesn't solve your linebacker group. I don't think so. I think Eric Wilson's going to start. I think TJ Edwards is going to start. You got Alex Singleton, you got Sean Bradley. So Davion Taylor, was basically a track and field guy who's a quick linebacker, hard hitter from Colorado, third round draft pick. I think he's still got to learn.
Could have been a fifth round draft pick, but that's another whole subject.
He's got to learn the game. Listen, our linebacker group isn't good, but there's probably 4 to 5 guys I would play over Davion Taylor. So no, I don't think so.
Jimmy?
I think for me, you kind of you said it. There's not a lot of talent in there that you know what they're going to look like this year. There are a lot of young guys, so we haven't seen what they've developed into. Really like what I saw from Alex Singleton against the run mostly. T.J. Edwards against the run mostly. Sean Bradley against the run mostly. So
Eric Wilson
what we need. So Eric Wilson comes in and helps you. Oh, he's a starter. Yeah, he started because the guy got hurt last year. He's a special teams guy that can play all the linebacker positions. Great versatility. You love that, but not exactly jumping off the page. So if he's your starter, that's a little concerning. You need a guy that can play coverage, and that's what Davian Taylor is. So you got to pray to the heavens that this guy pans out because, like you said, it's scary as hell. We can't blame him for getting drafted 3rd round, but Phil said it. Should have been a 5th round, 6th round pick. This kid was a track star. He's a hybrid safety, really. He shouldn't even be playing linebacker, but that's what we're using him as. The same with Jacoby Stevens. So the hope here is Jacoby Stevens and Davian Taylor. Man, if they could pan out to be your 2 nickel linebackers, that would be fantastic in a dream world in Madden, maybe if you got him developed correctly. But we've got a 27-year-old linebacker coach named Nick Rallis. He's never been a linebacker coach. I'm praying to God he can help out a room that's already barren, and we've got a kid coaching. So, very questionable at the linebacker spot. Glad we're talking about it.
What is going on here, man? A 27-year-old that's never coached linebackers before.
He was an assistant.
All right, I'm gonna throw this out there again. I hate bringing in my college prowess up, but this kid, I think Phil decided he was gonna be.
Hold on, he's back on a different show.
Oh, there you go.
Dude, I don't know what
up for this conversation.
First time that has ever happened to me.
Hold on,
My
happened to
screen
me.
crashed. First time ever.
We'll get that Phil out of there.
All right,
Don't know what happened there. We
Stop messing around with Thanos. He's snapping his fingers and getting rid of you.
Yeah, I literally 15 months of doing this. That is the first time that's ever happened. So my bad, everybody.
Don't sweat
So
it,
check
man.
this out, Phil.
To the best of us.
So I want to throw this out there, Phil. This for you. I waited for you to come back. So as a college guy, I did watch him at Colorado, but I wasn't impressed by his football necessarily. I was impressed by this dude being built like a brick shithouse and him being able to run as fast as he can. Like, listen, I'm not trying to be funny, but there's no substitute for speed.
Yep.
Everything else can be taught. I cannot make you faster. I cannot make you stronger a lot of times. But I can tell you one thing. If he only has to get around some slow, fat end, then I think I'd take this guy. And like you said, if you can develop him, he could also be a hybrid safety. Yes, he could be. I don't know how good he can play in coverage, but he played at a smaller school. Like Colorado's a smaller of the Division I schools. So he probably did have to play a little bit of spur. He probably had to go out and guard maybe some tight ends or some corner, maybe some receivers. Yeah, actually had to play. So listen, if he's a 3rd round pick, there might have been a reason they took him there. I mean, his accolades and speed and stuff, that can't really be quantified as far as stuff. So maybe Howie was onto something.
I agree with you, but I don't ever give Howie Roseman that pass. Maybe Howie was no.
There were a lot of guys I loved right there, Dylan. I was pissed.
Howie drafted Jalen Hurts too, by the way. Just so we know that. Just so we
there too.
In the 2nd round, great.
Let's save the Howie talk for another night because I've spent way too much of this offseason talking about Howie Roseman.
He's your starting quarterback.
I can't do it anymore. Can
I throw something in real quick before we end?
Absolutely.
I heard something about the defensive line. That was something I was hoping we were going to get into because what I really can't wait for is the thing we have been lacking since the Super Bowl, and that's some defensive line depth. So you went out and got some edge rushers. Ryan Kerrigan. Love that. Teron Jackson. Love that. Patrick Johnson's an interesting one. Listed as linebacker. Makes me feel like we're going to have some stand-up rushers in this defense. Certain matchups against certain teams. Jannard Avery, like you talked about, maybe he's your stand-up rusher, maybe using Derek Barnett there. There's going to be some intriguing things, but who's going to get those snaps in the second team? Is it Kerrigan, Josh Sweat, Teron Jackson? There's a lot of talent here, and I think that's how you build in the trenches. Phil mentioned it earlier in the video. That's where it begins. And, dude, I think that's going to be a great position to watch. I just wanted to throw that out there.
I think the defensive line in general, the tackles and the ends, it's kind of similar to the second level of the offensive line. There's 8-9 guys that have talent that can play on an NFL roster. It's just you can only keep so many on your roster. So I think Howie's going to have a lot of interesting choices to make. And, this is a whole new coaching staff and regime here. Last year I remember going into the season breaking down every year Doug Peterson's how many wide receivers he kept, how many tight ends, and you kind of get a feel of how his roster and how his 53-man roster is going to shape up. We have no idea what Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman are going to sit down and talk about. How many I mentioned 7 wide receivers. Maybe he wants to keep 7 wide receivers. Who knows? I mean, it's very rare and it's not likely.
Did it last year.
Exactly. You just never know how this new regime is going to play it out. So I think defensive line, there's going to be some tough choices, and where a Boston Scott or somebody on the offensive line might sneak through to the practice squad. This defensive line depth, they're not sneaking through to the practice squad. They're going to get picked up elsewhere.
For sure.
All right. So what happens first? We sign a quarterback 2, or Zach Ertz gets traded? That's the question to end the show. Because, there was a rumor from a guy I don't really trust anymore. I grew up loving him. When I was a little 10-year-old me driving around the paper van with my dad delivering newspapers on Saturday mornings, we'd listen to the sports talk radio. He loved the King. The King is a little different now. He's not as reliable as he used to be. But he said that his people say Zach Ertz will be here for camp and he's going to be on this roster this year. Do we think there's a chance of that happening? Because I actually do think, and I've been saying that for a few weeks now, that I think he's going to be on this roster, at least halfway through camp.
I think he's going to be on the roster. But to your question, what happens? But then what happens first? It has to be a corner. Even if Zach Ertz isn't on this roster and he does get moved, I still think signing cornerback number 2 happens first, because it needs to happen. Like, I'm just putting all my faith in Howie for some dumb reason that he's going to make a smart move here. But camp's approaching. It's less than 5-6 days away now. So you need to get cornerback number 2 in here within the next week and a half for training camp and to get accustomed to, this team.
I mean, if you're getting the right cornerback 2, I mean, we talked about on my shows last year offseason about getting Logan Ryan. He was a free agent cornerback going deep into the offseason there. And he didn't sign with the Giants till 5-6 days into camp. So, those guys, veteran cornerbacks, they can cornerback their system and there's a role, but it's either a coverage or it's zone. I mean, there's different techniques and different schemes, but you could pick up that as a cornerback too pretty easily, in my opinion. So I could see them going the first week of camp and throwing Zach McPherson out there with the ones, to see how he handles, that first week of camp and all. Jimmy?
Yeah, for sure. For me, one of the things is some people are under the guys that Zach Ertz has to be going to sign someone else. That is not true. We have enough cap space. We can sign Steven Nelson. So I think that, that would be the first move to Zach Ertz being on the team. This is something I've talked about for a very long time. I told people, just be patient. If he's not traded before the draft, you have to wait till after June 1st, and that doesn't mean he'll be gone June 2nd. We have to get some kind of value for this guy. We're not probably going to like what it is, but you got to get something. And I think, obviously, you're going to save $8.5 million in cap space. That's great, but you got to get something in return. So
Jimmy, just so you know, George, who's been checking in all show, he checks in all our shows, he just says, cut him. Don't worry about the compensation. And I've been telling him, you just cannot cut Zach
that's
Ertz.
why he's still
you
here.
Get a 7th-round pick. You've got to get something for Zach Ertz.
Exactly. And the thing is, he's got some kind of value still. Sure, he had an off year and he sucked last year. But the thing is, maybe you want him to come to training camp, show that he's out there, he's looking good. Then somebody gets hurt on another team in training camp. Then the value goes up and you say,
I think that's what they're hoping for.
So I've warned of this.
Bradford situation where Minnesota's quarterback goes down and they're desperate. And they gave us an arm and a leg for literally Sam Bradford's one arm and one leg. And that's all he had.
Well, training camp starting doesn't mean you can't make any more moves. And you mentioned it, Logan Ryan and signing late. Jesus, can't talk. It's a late one. Let's be real here. Anything can happen, dude. So Ertz could be going the 3rd preseason game. You know what I mean? So it's like he could be around, and it doesn't mean he's going to play the season. If I had to guess, I'd say he is not in an Eagles uniform week 1.
Okay. JD, any thoughts on that?
We've already talked about it. I think Ertz stays until the big deal is made. I think if
Watson to the Watson deal, you mean?
Yeah, I think if you'll start hearing, will be 5 days from training camp. I think 5-6 days.
Yeah.
Yep. Tuesday is when everybody reports.
Watch this. Watch the news cycles. Watch if you don't have nothing else to do. I know everybody here is an Eagles fan and a Steelers fan, and we all worried about what's going on in Pennsylvania.
I don't think there's anybody else here that's a Steelers fan.
Listen,
no Steagles here.
No. Hey, listen. It's the same thing. Just relax. Watch the news cycles, guys. People that are on the stream, watch the news cycle. I know if you are a Steelers or an Eagles fan, watch what's going on down in Houston. Pay attention, because a lot of that stuff that's going to get talked about is going to affect you. dramatically, because if that dude, that number 4 that's down there in Houston, is somehow shopped, it's going to be the Philly to a place where they accept people who have made a mistake or have been into something. And this will be a resurgence for him of like, kind of like Michael Vick. Not the same amount of time has passed, but the stuff that's done to his, his actual his reputation. So be careful. Zach Ertz, you might be in the Houston, Texas jersey, baby. It might look good on you.
I love it. Anybody got anything else to add? How excited you are for camp? We are 5 days now, away from the start of camp. Dude, I'm excited. I don't know about you guys. I'm just pumped for football to be back.
Yeah, what they did to me at the end of last year and all of last season, I've been so tuned out. Like, I was so checked out of this team and so pissed off at this team, and I haven't spent any money. I didn't spend any money on this team or anything for months. And then the Sixers happened, and now I just need football season to come. I'm hopeful for this Eagles season, but once it gets started, I'll be loud and obnoxious and, hoping and praying and thinking we'll make a postseason run somehow, some way.
Go ahead, Gene.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I really think that I'm excited, but I'm going into this understanding that this is retooling for me. This isn't really something where I'm expecting a Super Bowl run where, oh my God, we got to win all these games. What I want to see is the development of these young players. I want to see how these new coaches do. And if we have some kind of future here with Sirianni, all his coordinators, Jalen Hurts, obviously. So I'm strapping in and I'm going to have some fun. I think I'm just looking forward to the new energy. Dylan just said it. We're all reeling. Everything we went through, then the corona, we're locked in. We're like, okay, football's coming, right? This is going to be our saving grace. Oh my God. 4 wins, one of the worst seasons ever. It sucked. So we need this redemption. And even if it's you lose a couple games, if this team is holding itself accountable, if they're going out and fighting, if they're getting some turnovers, putting up some touchdowns, that's something we've been lacking. And I'm really excited. But I'm going in. I'm not. My expectation. Jesus, can I talk today? Expectations are not high. I think the Eagles are going to come in. They could compete for the NFC East, but if they don't, not going to lose sleep over it. I just want to see my birds get on the road to victory.
That's a great plug right there. Again, this is I got to thank these 3 guys here. This has been an awesome episode. Only episode 2 of Trending for 4 Quarters, and I got Jimmy Smith from On the Road to Victory. Like I said in the beginning, it wasn't just to pump up the guest. It's one of my favorite podcasts and YouTube shows. If you guys gotta check, what are we pointing to?
I'm trying to point. You can't point.
You're pointing the wrong way, JD. You're pointing up into space. There you go. Literally, one of my favorite YouTube channels. The guy does some amazing work. He does stuff with 4th and John. He does stuff everywhere. I mean, he puts out videos every day. So, Jimmy, again, thank you very much for coming on tonight. It was an honor to have you on my show.
It was an honor to be here. Seriously, Dylan and JD, you guys were awesome. Getting to meet you guys. Phil, getting to have you on my show the other week, I told you I was more than excited to come on yours. So, dude, definitely do it again. Thank you so much, guys, for having me.
Yeah, Jimmy, so Trending for 4 Quarters every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Look, I got my map here for the next 8-10 weeks worth of shows. We got Football Kelly. We got Zeke Spoon, Matt Daddy. We got the Swag Man. We got Luke Sawhook. I've got Jason Ashworth and Connor Miles on the lineup. Jeff Warren, Jason Voorhees, Aaron Savage. I've got guests lined up for 8-9 weeks worth of shows. Make sure you're following us on DSM Media at DSM_media on Twitter. Make sure you hit subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you follow. There's big things. Dylan with his shows. We got Turf Talk. We got the Faithful Fanatics. JD with tomorrow. Sneaker Savant. There's so much great stuff. We got Scotty Talks. We got Ginty. There's so much great content on DSM Media, everybody. So make sure you're subscribed, following, notifications on every platform, because you're not going to want to miss what happens the rest of this year on DSM Media. You need to follow 2 things, DSM Media and On the Road to Victory. That's all you need for all your football and Eagles coverage. You can follow Dylan at DylanJD98, JD at JD_DDS. Of course, Jimmy, OTR2 Victory. And me at Beard and Knowledge, Phil Stifle. Guys, let's get one big Go Birds to sign off the air tonight. Go Birds.
Go Birds.
Love it.